Hello everyone and welcome to Storytime Art. My name is Tyler and I'm certainly glad that you could be here with us today. Today we are going to be looking at how to draw some buildings and maybe even a city. So what I have here today is I've actually brought some things from last week. Last week we were working on building cities out and houses and things out of boxes. So I brought some of those back from last week. If you haven't watched it, you can go and check it out. It's called Box Art, which is super fun. It was a very fun video to make. So I brought those along today for a little bit of inspiration to help us out. Some other things that you might be needing today to do today's project is simply some paper. I have some just regular old white paper. You can use any color or size that you want. And then I also have some drawing stuff. So I have a pencil and a marker. I've got different colored markers. Whoops. Some pastels if you want some color in there. And then another thing that you might want, that you might find helpful, is some pieces of cardboard or paper or really anything that's already in shapes, and we can use this for drawing around. Also for if you want to make circles, a roll of tape is perfect for that. So anything that you can find that is already in a shape, that's going to make our shape drawings so much easier. All right, so go ahead and grab those things and then we'll get started. Okay, so let's get started. I've got my little building here. I'm going to sort of set it outside over here so I can take a look at it. It's always nice to, when you're drawing things, to be able to have something to look at to give you a bit of inspiration. Another thing you can do is you can look at your window and you can kind of see what's out there as well. It's a great way to find some inspiration. So I've got a simple line drawing here. I haven't shaded anything in, I haven't colored anything in, it's just a simple line drawing, and you can see there's lots of different shapes going on here. So, I've got some little circles, I've got some half circles up here. You can see there's lots of rectangles in the buildings, and there's even some smaller, sort of more hidden shapes. So there's a triangle in there, there's a triangle in there. Let's draw this line here so you can see. To make this, I just made a rectangle, and then I put a half circle on top of that. And then you can see I've got kind of these big triangles back here. So a lot of, when I'm making a big drawing like this, it's simply just stacking shapes or stacking blocks. Like if you were building your own sort of city or house or anything out of building blocks, you would do kind of the same thing, except we're going to do it flat on paper today. So I'll move this over here for a second. Start on a fresh sheet of paper. All right, so to start, I'm going to make a nice straight line. Well, it doesn't have to be straight. It can be. I'm going to start kind of close to the bottom, and I'm going to be straight-ish. Maybe it's going to be kind of a little hilly, kind of like that. There, how's that? Perfect. Okay. And what I want for each of my buildings is I want them to sort of look like they're getting smaller and smaller as we go farther and farther back. So I'm going to start with, let's see if we can redraw that bridge that we had. So I'm going to draw a straight line all the way across here. And I'm just using a piece of cardboard as a straight edge here. You can use a ruler if you want, or if you don't have a ruler, you can always use it's a good trick for, if you want to draw a straight line really quickly and you don't have a ruler. Let's see. Now, if I want sort of a half circle, I'm going to use my roll of tape here. And let's see, the inside, it actually fits kind of nicely. So I'm going to draw on the inside there. And you can always draw this with pencil first. if you like, and then you can draw over with marker. That's often what I'll do, is I'll draw something in pencil first, and then I'll do it with marker after. That way you can make sure you have the lines where you want them to be. All right, so the next part is those little hidden triangles. So I'm going to draw those in like that. And if you look at lots of buildings and architecture outside in the world, you'll be able to see quite a bit of shape. So next time you're driving through a city, or you're walking through a city, or something like that, or if you live close to a city or in a city, take a look at the buildings, or even at school or at playgrounds or things like that, and try and look for all the shapes that you can find. Okay, so I've got my sort of road and my bridge here, and now I'm going to start adding my first row of buildings. So because these ones are going to be kind of closer, and I want to fill up a lot of this stuff here, I'm going to draw these ones kind of a little bit, kind of like this, and they're going to be touching that bottom line there. And let's see, if I want, I don't have to trace it exactly, like I'm just going to use it right there. So now I've got this size building and a smaller one out of the same piece of cardboard there. Maybe I will use this triangle, and I'll make a triangular building right here. So I'm not, I could use the whole triangle, but I'm just going to use a little section of it here. So let's see. Now once I've done that, I can kind of clean up these lines a little bit if I want to. That's why it's always good to start with a pencil. I find it's hard to, if I use a pencil, it's hard for you to see it on the camera sometimes. All right, so I'm not really worrying about detailed things like windows or doors or any of that stuff just yet. I just want to get the main kind of forms and shapes in there. And if you're looking at a city, so a bridge, let's say we're going over, there's like maybe a river here, so maybe I'll put like a kind of a river, some water lines. You wouldn't necessarily have a building built on the river, so where my bridge is, I'm going to leave this area kind of open because I wouldn't have a building there. Okay, so for my next couple of buildings, I'm going to continue using some cardboards. I'm going to maybe use some bigger ones. I've got some other larger paper here. And these are going to be taller, and I want them to look like they're behind this row of buildings that I already did. And what I'm going to do to get that is I'm going to place my cardboard tracer here, and I'm going to start where this building is. I'm going to trace up and around and then back down, and then I'm going to stop right there. So when I pull this away, it looks like the building is behind. So I can see the top part of the building, but not the bottom, because these buildings, they're in front, right? So if I was using the cardboard, it would kind of look like this. So let's see, let me make another one here. I'm going to do this one a little bit on the bridge. And again, I'm starting where this building is. I'm not going to overlap it. And then let's say I'm going to come right down to this bridge, and I'm going to stop right there. So now you can see that building. All right, let's see, what should we do next? I'm going to take, I have a big triangle thing here. This is another tool that you can use. Sometimes I like to use this instead of a ruler because I've got some different shapes as well. Now, because it's your, you're drawing your own city, you can make it kind of weird and kind of funky if you want to. So I'm going to draw a weird looking triangle shaped building. This is going to be fun. That's going to kind of like reach over top. or like poke out over top of the bridge here. And I'm going to put it behind everything else. And watch how I do this. Even though it's not going to be taller, actually, let's make it taller than this one. Just a little bit. And as I'm coming down, I'm going to stop right there, right? Because I want this to go behind. And I'm going to finish it off right there. So now it looks like my giant triangle building. It almost looks like a big ship, like a boat. And that's sort of the front part where people hang out, the deck. And now it looks like it's behind this row of buildings. So I've got 1, 2, and 3 layers, and already my picture is looking like it's got depth. I can see far into the distance. Let's see if I'm going to make another one, another sort of bigger one. And this one I'm going to sort of put it off the page, starting there, like I do, and then across like this. And by making it go kind of off the page, you know, I've only drawn it on a thing that's this big, but in your imagination, because it goes off the page, this building could go all the way over here. It could be this big if you wanted it to be. And that's a neat thing about drawing things that kind of like go off the page, is that you can kind of fill that in with your imagination. So for example, if I'll show you what I mean. So on this side, and this is a nice way, if you want to make your drawings even larger, you can tape a sheet of paper here and you can make it a little bit longer. So we've got our triangle here, and then you don't see it because I've stopped drawing there, but like, let's just imagine that there is more space there. This building could be even like, you know, weird like this. But we don't see that because that piece of paper is off, but you could imagine that this is still there. It's kind of a neat thing. Okay, let's see what we got next. All right, now I'm going to do one more sort of buildings back here. Now these are going to be the tallest. So things, you know, they're going to be sort of the farthest away. So they're going to be quite large in real life because in order for you to see them so far away, they need to be very tall, like a tall tower, like the Eiffel Tower or the CN Tower if you've been to Toronto, kind of like that. But in reality, or sorry, in the way that you see them, they appear very, very sort of small and skinny. So I'm going to use this one again. No, actually, I will use this because I don't have a big enough piece of cardboard really. And I'm going to make, this one, and then I'm going to move this over here. And then I'm going to give it kind of an angled roof. Kind of like that. And for fun, just like I did on the other one, I'm going to put a circle kind of floating up there. All right, and maybe I will put another one, another sort of small one here, kind of like this. And this one, I'll do an angled roof, kind of like this. I kind of like those angled roofs. And then instead of a circle, maybe I'll put on the inside a square. Now these little ones, because they're little, I'm just going to freehand draw them. Now the next thing that you're going to do is we're going to add a little more detail. Right now it kind of looks like a bunch of shapes just hanging out. Now you can start adding some detail. Now the buildings that are the closest to you, those are going to have the most detail. The buildings in the middle are going to have sort of a medium amount of detail, and the buildings in the far back are going to have very, very small amount of detail. And I'll show you what that looks like. So if I'm doing maybe some windows or doors, you can do like, you know, squares and rectangles and things like that. But you can also, I mean, we got wacky with these kind of angled buildings. So why not have some wacky angled angled windows and circle windows and things like that too. So I'm going to do a circle window here, a circle window there and maybe a triangle door. On my other one, I had these sort of lines going up on the bridge, because often you'll see that on a bridge there'll be these sort of posts or poles kind of holding it in place. Let's see, maybe I'll do a square inside this triangle, and then maybe I'll do an oval, and again my oval's going to go partially off the page like that, just like that. All right, so my next row of buildings, I'm going to do something similar, but everything's going to be a little bit smaller because it's farther away. So it's going to appear smaller. So my windows are going to be a little bit smaller, and I'm just kind of like putting them all over the place. And you know, this isn't like regular windows that you would see. It's just kind of funky windows. Let's do a circle here and a bigger circle, but still a little bit smaller than those. And then for these buildings back here, I'm just going to do lines. And that's how sometimes in comic books or drawings, artists will do pictures of windows just by doing kind of lines like that. And you can add whatever details that you want to go in here. Just remember, anything that you're doing that's close up to you, that's going to be the biggest and have the most detail. And anything that's sort of up here and kind of farthest away, that's going to be kind of, you know, the least amount of detail. And then what you can do afterwards is you can go ahead and color it. You know, you can color in the sections and have some fun with it. But I tend to do the line drawing first. All right, so thank you very much for joining us. That is our video here today. If you like what you saw and you would like to draw something and show it to us, that would be super wonderful. You can show it to us on Facebook or Instagram, and you can use this hashtag AGHAtHome, and that way we can see the artwork and we can share it with all of our friends as well. All right. So from all of us here at AGH at Home, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.